Hallo und herzlich willkommen heute Abend hier im KörberForum. Mein Name ist Hartig. Ich freue mich sehr, dass Sie hier live dabei sind, sowohl hier im KörberForum, wo wir lange Zeit keine Gäste leider empfangen konnten, aber eben auch im Stream. Ich freue mich sehr, dass Sie hier sind zu einer weiteren Ausgabe der Reihe Ohr zur Welt. Was ist das Ohr zur Welt? Eine Reihe, in der wir der Musik nachlauschen wollen, ihren Einflüssen, ihren Verbindungen zwischen Tradition und Moderne. Wir haben immer ein kleines Gespräch mit den Künstlern dazwischen. Wir haben unterschiedlichste Musiker in der Vergangenheit hier gehabt. Heute Abend freue ich mich, einen besonderen Abend ankündigen zu dürfen, nämlich zu einem mit einem Streichquartett und mit einem Solisten zusammen. Das Streichquartett, das sind Adam, Jansen, Ingmar und Martin vom Kaiser Quartett hier aus Hamburg. Sie sind in vielen musikalischen Zusammenhängen unterwegs. Sie haben ein breites Repertoire. Sie haben mit Chili González gespielt. Sie haben mit Daniel Hope gespielt. Sie sind also sehr versiert, was es geht, stilistisch vielfältig zu arbeiten. Und sie haben sich zusammengetan und sind ein Partner geworden, musikalischer Partner mit unserem Gast, der vor 10 Tagen aus Kanada nach Hamburg gekommen ist, hier verschiedene Auftritte schon hatte in der Stadt. Also ist fast schon ein geborener Hamburger. Das ist Josh Dolgin, aka Socalled. Herzlich willkommen. Joshua, very warm welcome to you. It's a great honor to have you on the KörberForum stage. And we'll have a short conversation in the middle of this show. Die Berufsbezeichnung von Josh Dolgin wäre seitenfüllend, denn er ist Fotograf, er ist DJ, er ist Theatermusiker, er ist Arrangeur, er ist Kompositeur, er ist Multi-Instrumentalist und er ist, das werden Sie heute Abend erleben oder wissen es wahrscheinlich schon, er ist ein Entertainer. Und die beiden das Ensemble und er haben sich zusammengetan, um ein besonderes Repertoire zusammen zu erarbeiten, nämlich jiddische Lieder in einer Bearbeitung für Gesang, Klavier, Akkordeon und Streichquartett. Und wir werden jetzt einige Lieder hören. Josh wird dazu etwas auch erzählen. Dann werden wir in der Mitte einen kurzen Block machen, ein Mini-Music-Seminar über was ist es eigentlich, warum klingt es so, wie wir es hören, was verbinden wir mit der Musik, wo haben wir vielleicht Hörerwartungen, die dann doch andere sind, als sie in der Realität sind. Wie kommt es überhaupt dazu, dass wir Musik auch einordnen, wenn wir von Klezmer reden, wenn wir von jiddischer Musik reden? Warum ist sie so vielfältig? Das wollen wir nachher besprechen. Ich wünsche Ihnen erstmal ganz viel Vergnügen mit dem ersten Teil des Abends, Socalled und das Kaiser Quartett. Mit dem Programm Die Frosh. Viel Vergnügen.
Bim bom bim bom, ay, bim bom bim bom, ay. This was a nigun, a melody, and it comes from the Hasidic tradition of these songs without words. So don't worry if you didn't understand what I was just singing, because there was not words. And don't be afraid if you don't understand what I'm singing tonight, because hopefully it's an opportunity to learn a bit about some amazing composers, some amazing styles. I'm going to sing from the incredibly rich tradition of Jewish music, which is so vast. And I will sing tonight something from Yiddish theater music, or some children's songs, holiday music, and stuff inspired by this Hasidic tradition of these nigunim, these wordless melodies. The next song comes from the repertoire of an incredible artist born in 1912 in Rotterdam, his name was Leo Fuld. He was a sensation as a young kid, and recorded on the radio, and then moved to America. And then when he came back to Europe after the war, where he'd managed to escape, he came back and he saw that his whole Yiddish world had been destroyed, and for 10 years he didn't sing a note. But then he realized it was important to keep singing these songs, and this is one of his songs from a sort of Yiddish theater repertoire that speaks of a Jewish inn in Romania, a Rumänische Kretschmer, and it features Adam Solinsky on the violin. Come on, let's hear it. Don't be shy.
Wer die haben vergnügen, weiß die, wo es kennt das Kriegen in rumänische Kretschmer. Ich will dich haben, geht Fissen, vertrinken Wein sehr süßen in rumänische Kretschmer. Ich will die Herren in Lach singen, in Freilach tanzen und springen, aber Lechte in Perlach klingen. In rumänische Kretschmer. Ai, die rumänische Kretschmer. Ai, die rumänische Kretschmer. Fisto Hockenädel, a Wiener Weibermädel. Ai, die rumänische Kretschmer. Ai, die rumänische Kretschmer. Oi, karnatzelig, oi, pfefferlig, oi, steckelig, oi, leikelig. Ai, Ai, die rumänische Kretschme. Ai, 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 die rumänische Kretschme.
Dankeschön. In 2007, I organized with my parents a trip, a cruise, on a boat from Kiev to Odessa. And it became the first and last Yiddish culture cruise. It was amazing. I hired 10 incredible professional klezmer musicians. I hired a dance instructor, a language teacher of Yiddish, a historian from the university that I went to in Montreal at McGill. And then 200 people signed up to go on this cruise, to go back to the homeland and visit these little shtetls and places where my ancestors came from. In fact, my grandfather came from a little town along the Dnieper River called Dniepropetrovsk. And then nearby Dniepropetrovsk, a smaller town called Zaporozhye. And when we got to Zaporozhye, a gentleman joined us on the boat who lived there still to this day. Well, he passed away a few years ago. His name was Arkady Gendler. But until he passed away, he lived in this town where my grandfather was from. And in fact, he taught Yiddish to children there. He was born in Bessarabia in Soroka, and he managed to survive the war by being in the Russian army, which probably isn't a very fun way to survive the war. And then after the war, he went back to Soroka, and his whole family had been killed. And this was the beginning of his life of challenges and tragedies. But through it all, he maintained this incredible spirit of generosity and just the most beautiful, positive, incredible, amazing man. If you're curious, check out on YouTube, I made a video of us visiting somebody who I'll talk about in a bit, this poet, Mordechai Gebirtig in Krakow. And we visited Mordechai Gebirtig's home. So look up Socalled vignettes, and you'll see Arkady singing some of these songs at Mordechai's. I'll tell you a bit more about Mordechai Gebirtig in a bit. So when Arkady got on the boat, he really became the heart and soul of the cruise. And I asked him, because he's a great songwriter as well, he sang his whole life and had a vast repertoire of Yiddish song. And I asked him to write a song about our experience on the boat. And he went into his cabin with a list of the names of the people that had come on this cruise. And then about an hour later, he emerged with this song, which is called Zum Stamm, to the source.
Die Brecken von den Dnieper Städtele, sie ist Zaporozhye der Nomen. Sie ist dort mein Seele am mollige Jorgen, hin sie zum Leben gekommen. Dort hat ausgebeut Stiebele, Wus ist geboren, mein Tate. Dorten verpflanzt hat Gärtnern Träumen von Jammen und Länder von Weite. Hat sich von dorten in Kirchen zersprengt, auf Wegen und Länder, steht, lachen steht, Mäuschelig, schleumelig, sorgelig, leierlich, berlich, perlich, Mendels en heilig, mierlich, zierlich, Velvels en Chaims, sie machen dort alle L'chaim. Chaves en Leselig, Mottelig, Josselig, machen schon alle L'chaim. Sobben nicht lang sich zu wiegt und zu heult, dem Segens, dem Liebenskindskinder, haben sie fessig Gestalt auf die Füße leer, es ist doch auf Klick und auf Winter. Dorten Gebäude, besprochen sind Heimen, mit Liebe, was passiert mit Blumen. Dorten gesungen am Molke liederlich, doch sich gebieten die Nemmen. Hat sich von dorten in Kirchen zersprengt, auf Wegen und Ländern steht, lachen steht, Barbara, Linda, Christina and Ronnie, Lionel, Nancy, Edward, Lillian, Jerry, Philip, Marilyn and Rosalie machen schon alle L'chaim. Gordon and Roger, Francisco and Eugene, sie machen schon alle L'chaim. Auf der Welt sich zerblieht schon der Frühling, und angefällt Herz mit Liebe. So haben die zarte, warme Winterle, stillen, vertrieben Triebe. Hob die Mischpoche, versammelt beim Dnieper, verschiedene Zweigen zusammen. Und auf ein Schiff abgeführt sei zu weißen, die Erde von Wannen sie stammen. Haben sich umgekehrt alle aheim, mit Nemmen am Molke, man darf das verstehen. Mäuschele, Schleumele, Drolelig, Leierlich, Perlich, Perlich, Mendels en Heilig, Mierlich, Zierlich, Velvels en Chaims, sie machen dort alle L'chaim. Chaves en Leselig, Mottele, Jossele, machen schon alle L'chaim! I don't know if you noticed this year of pandemic and lockdown and quarantine, there was this viral situation that happened with sea shanties. Did you hear about this? Like these songs of pirates, okay? Yeah? And so I thought, well, you know, we need a Yiddish version of this. We need to compete in the viral pirate song competition. And I have found this Song of the Sea and how appropriate to sing it here in Hamburg, in the harbor. It feels right, right? It feels right. It was written in Hebrew in the 11th century. They had pirates back then, apparently. And then translated into Yiddish in the 1870s. Yeah, I've forgotten all of my loved ones. I have left my own home. I've abandoned myself to the sea. Carry me, sea, arr, to my mother's bosom. Bring me there unharmed and then fly back again. Give greetings to all of my loved ones and tell them of my happiness. Yam Lied, arranged by the great Yiddish theater composer Abraham Elstein. vergessen, allerliebste, hab verlost mein eigen Haus, hab dem Jam sich abgegeben. Tragt mich Jam zum Mutterscheuß und der Meile Windgetreier treibt mein Schiff zu jenem Brig, was mein Herz mit Oderfliegel sucht schon lang zu ihrem Weg. Bring mich nur hin, bescholem nach dem Fließ dir zurück. Gießen sollst du allerliebste und erzähl sie von mein Glück. Und du Meere Windgetreier, treib mein Schiff zu jenem Breg, was mein Herz mit Oderfliegel sucht schon lang zu ihm Weg. Der hält Seil von meine Glied.
Josh Dolgin, Socalled, and the Kaiser Quartett. Thank you for this amazing first part. Hello again. It's now the time to talk a little bit about the music and the inner structure of the music. And we have chosen this part, Stranek, this piece, Stranek, for showing some what we estimated things that we combine with the idea of klezmer music, the changement between major and minor. And this, I think, is a good example. You have chosen it to show something about it, because we want to know why things sound like they sound. What's the structure of the harmony as well?
Good question. Well, first of all, I should say that this song we just played is not a traditional klezmer song. It's a composition by a living composer. His name is Emil Kreuter, and he was from Kishinev in Moldova, but he lives in Israel now. And it sort of goes to show that the music is still alive, it's still being created now, and it's still being created in a way that's recognizable as a style. And your question is, what makes it sound like it does? And there are a lot of things going on in klezmer that make it what it is, and it's basically melodies, harmonies, rhythms, polyrhythms, and syncopations, and then these melodies. How are they ornamented? How are they? How do you phrase the melodies? So all of that, it's sort of complicated to tell you in 2 seconds. But one of the cliches explaining what makes klezmer special is that it laughs and cries at the same time. And the laughing and crying can be sort of symbolized by the musical ideas of major and minor. Major is culturally sort of understood as being happy. It's with that major third. Okay? But when you lower the major third, a semitone, you get a minor third. And all of a sudden, you're very sad. And so klezmer, just even within one phrase, jumps between major and minor to give you that friction and that tension that is released once in a while. And it really, I sort of see it as symbolizing life, which is life is full of pain and pleasure and joy and sadness. And it's all encapsulated in these beautiful melodies that jump between that and tell that story. So, you want to demonstrate it a little bit? Just
yeah.
So this song is a great example of it, even though it's not a traditional klezmer song, because Emil Kreuter is such a master composer that he's really captured this idea, and it sort of happens in every line of the song. So why don't you play the melody just from the top? So this is minor. I mean, that's major. And then it goes major. So happy. But then it goes back to the sadness. Right? And then major, back to minor. Okay? And then that story keeps going. Another thing that's very Jewish about that song is the structure of these little sort of musical ideas that are stitched together that tell a story that really comes a lot from that nigun tradition, these traditions of these wordless melodies that comes from the Hasidim. And you can hear that it's very Talmudic and very logical, these little statements. It's not just one long story. It's a bunch of little stories that have sort of an introduction, and then you sort of disagree, and then you build on the disagreement, and then you come to a conclusion. It's logic. So like da 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 dum, that's one idea. Da 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 dum. That completes the thought, but it sort of leaves you wanting more. It's not over yet. It says it again, but now in a major way. But it's also not finished. It's like building on that first idea. The end. It's a whole idea from beginning to end, but it's not quite over, is it? It's sort of that end of that phrase leads you into the B section.
For das Stringquartett, das Streichquartett, Ingmar, wenn du an diese harmonischen Wechsel denkst, gibt es Vergleiche aus anderem Repertoire? Ich dachte ein bisschen Thema Dur-Moll bei Schubert zum Beispiel, wo das Moll ja nicht nur das Traurige, sondern vielleicht das Weiche und das Dur sozusagen das harte Realität ist. Würdet ihr da eine Parallele ziehen oder eher nicht?
Mir fällt gerade keine Parallele direkt ein, weiß ich gerade tatsächlich nicht. Okay. Aber es gibt es natürlich, ganz sicher. Also ich meine, fällt gerade kein...
Jetzt ist das ja eine instrumentale Kombination. Wie ist das nachher für euch, wenn der Quartettsatz zusammen mit der Singstimme kommt? Der Quartettsatz ist ja teilweise sehr autark, sehr autonom.
Ja, der ist sehr autonom, aber es kommt immer drauf an. Also wir spielen ja auch zum Beispiel ein paar Stücke, wo der Quartettsatz ein Chorsatz ist eigentlich, ursprünglich mal war. Also Josh hat ja alte Chorsätze teilweise ausgegraben.
Den wir nachher noch hören, ja.
Die wir dann, wo wir dann quasi den Chor spielen und er singt da drüber, was natürlich für ihn, also das funktioniert natürlich sehr gut. Ja. Weil, aber es ist dann auch ein bisschen eigen, weil es anders ist als ein klassischer Quartettsatz wäre. Oder wir spielen teilweise Stücke, die aus dem Pianosatz abgeleitet sind. Und auch die sind dann eher speziell. Also es ist nicht klassisches Streichquartett-Repertoire. Aber es gibt ja auch andere Stücke, die von Elstine zum Beispiel, die Arrangements von diesen, die sind sehr klassisches Streichquartett, aber sehr, sehr autonom und sehr interessant, wo man merkt, dass diese, was in den Melodien drin ist, auch in dem Streichquartettsatz versteckt ist und auch passiert.
Josh, when we talk about Yiddish music or klezmer music, we often say it's the same. It's the same. It's not the same. So, could you clarify a bit? Tell something about what's the one and the other.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Technically, klezmer is Eastern European Jewish instrumental dance music, but basically wedding music. Yiddish is the language, and when you add Yiddish lyrics to klezmer, it's technically not klezmer anymore. It becomes a Yiddish song. It becomes Yiddish theater music. It becomes a Yiddish art song or a lullaby in Yiddish. But it would have elements from klezmer. Now already the term klezmer is problematic because technically the word klezmer just means musician. It's actually a combination of two Hebrew words, clay and zemer. Clay is a vessel or a holder, and zemer is song. So a vessel of song is the person who has the song in them, has the music, the keeper of the song. That is a klezmer. And when they were playing the music, these people before the war, for hundreds of years, this sort of caste of musicians, family musicians, they didn't call themselves klezmer. They didn't call the music klezmer. They called themselves klezmer, klezmorium, and one of them was a klezmer. So yeah, that's kind of a.
But they were really multi-talented musicians, and were highly appreciated for their capacity and capability in playing and improvising and so on.
Yes, I mean, if you listen to old recordings from like the teens in the turn of the last century, you hear these orchestras. They're incredible. They're virtuosic musicians, and they were appreciated by non-klezmer musicians. They would go into a town, and some of the great classical musicians would go and watch them play because they were so incredible at their instrument. And then klezmer sort of had also a negative connotation in America because serious musicians didn't want to be considered klezmer. Klezmer was that dirty wedding music. It wasn't serious music. And so these like great musicians like this vibraphone player, xylophone player, Jacob Hoffman, who played in an orchestra, a klezmer orchestra in Philadelphia called Kandel's Orchestra. He didn't want to be known as a klezmer. It was a bad word. It was an insult. He was a serious musician, and he played in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and he played percussion in the Philadelphia Orchestra. But then, at home, he would play this klezmer music, this Eastern European Jewish dance music.
So you and the Kaiser Quartett, you were working for, I think, 7 years together now, 7 or 8 years, and you came together via Stile Gonzalez, I think. You met, he brought you together, but it was not for incidence that you, or by chance that you decided to write or to arrange for a string quartet. Why? And what's the role? Is it about the role of the violin in Yiddish music as well?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, I must say. I can't believe it's been 7 years, and we've had a lot of adventures together with this
I think you told on
project,
Kampnagel that it was 7 years. I think you told on Kampnagel that it was 7 years ago.
Right. No, it could be. It's something like that. So, okay, for starters, yes, you're right. The violin is very important in traditional Jewish music. It was the most traditional ensemble, was a violin with a cymbalom, which is like a hammered dulcimer. And usually a small one that you carry around your neck. It's very portable. A violin is very portable. And that was the most traditional ensemble. Then technology came along and conscriptions to armies where Jews were forced to join the Russian army, so they were given a clarinet, they were given a trumpet. It's a louder instrument. It changed the sound of the music, and that became the traditional ensemble: brass, clarinets, drums. And the violin kind of couldn't keep up in that ensemble. And so when I wanted to do this program, I mean, I'm a hip-hop producer. I make pop music and funky mixes of Yiddish music with new rhythms of today. But in so doing, I fell in love with the traditional music. And at a certain point, I decided, I mean, I wasn't a singer before I got into this like 20 years ago. But when I was listening to these old recordings, I fell in love with the repertoire, and I started to want to sing the songs. I wanted to play them on an instrument.
I want people to hear it around, and to keep this tradition.
Yeah, I want to hear it done again. And now there's a very healthy community of Yiddish music today, of people trying to do it today, relearning it, thanks to the work of the klezmer revival that happened in the 70s and 80s in America, when people, basically these hippies, these old hippies, started to find 78 recordings of these old orchestras playing, and said, wow, this is cool. What is this? Because for a couple generations, with assimilation in America, and of course after the Holocaust sort of cut off the source of the music in Europe, it was forgotten. And also this assimilation, these musicians that wanted to be taken seriously, and I'm not a klezmer, that's a dirty word, they got jobs in serious orchestras or whatever. And so a lot of the knowledge in that hundreds of year old tradition, there was a rupture. And so there had to be a rediscovering of it, a revival of the style and of the music. And so I wanted to sing these songs, and eventually I decided I wanted to hear them, like I wanted to hear all the harmonies that go on with these melodies. It's not just a melody with a chord. It's not just copying some old recording and doing the best you can. I started to find arrangements for the music, and arrangements of the music from the time when it was a living tradition. So the arrangements, it's not just a simple melody that you sing with a chord. It's all these subtle arrangements going on. So I wanted to hear that, and so I started to collect scores of choral music, or 4-part harmony singing, or piano charts. Just a normal piano chart that has all these notes going on, and then I converted that to be played by 4 strings. I'd met the Kaiser Quartett, working with Chili Gonzalez, and then they came and worked with me on a musical at Kampnagel. Are you all coming to Kampnagel, to the summer festival? It's an incredible festival. And so we did a musical together, and then one day I had these arrangements, or even just these choral parts, and I said, everybody take a part. Let's just hear what this sounds like. And we started experimenting with that, and it created this new sound, but it's based on old stuff. I mean, all these songs are traditional, they're folk songs, they're songs from the Yiddish theater from the 1920s, but the way that we're hearing it today is new. but it sort of it honors the music in a new and an old way at the same time.
Ja, ich denke, dieselbe Idee habt ihr ja eigentlich als Streichquartett auch. Ja? Also die Form des Streichquartetts, die man gern so ein bisschen akademisch sieht. Oder Martin, willst du dazu was sagen?
Ja, also es hat sich jetzt einfach so entwickelt, dass wir viele Kollaborationen haben mit verschiedensten Künstlerinnen und wir sind da nicht so, dass wir sagen, ja, jetzt gehen wir mal weg von der Klassik. Eigentlich haben wir fast nie Klassik gespielt. Unsere erste Sache in Deutschland, ein bisschen größer, war Roger Cicero und dann haben wir uns durch die Popgeschichte durchgearbeitet, sind dann irgendwann zu Chili González gekommen und ja, mit Josh auch eine tolle Sache. Also wir gehen da eher so ran, dass wir sagen, was kann die Musik uns bringen und nicht, wie viele Akkorde sind jetzt da pro 4 Sekunden Zeit drin und hat es dadurch mehr Wert oder weniger.
So let's come back to the topic of harmony. The next piece you will perform is a piece about childhood. It's remembering the childhood, Kinderjahren. And could you tell us something about the song, and then we will demonstrate something about really harmony.
Well, this song is one of the most famous poems and songs of the great Yiddish poet Mordechai Gebirtig, who was born in Krakow in the 1870s, where he lived his whole life and was a singer, he was an actor, he was a badchen, a wedding performer, a wedding entertainer, but he was mostly remembered now as a great poet and songwriter. He actually didn't know how to write music, so he would whistle the melody to a friend who wrote down the notes for him. And in that way, he composed dozens and hundreds of incredible songs that are some of the most famous in the Yiddish repertoire. And this song talks about childhood, about Kinderjahren, years of childhood, sweet years of childhood, forever you will stay in my memory. Whenever I think of those years, my heart sinks and I feel sad. Oh, how quickly did I become old. So it's a beautiful, sentimental, soul-crushingly sad but beautiful song, like all these great Yiddish melodies, combinations of major and minor, and the sweetness and sourness of life in music. And in this arrangement, it's from something I found at an archive in New York City called the YIVO, which was an archive that was saved from Europe. It started in Lithuania, but in the Second World War, it was smuggled out and saved in New York City. And it still exists, and there's a huge recordings archive and books and documents there. And I found this arrangement by someone I already mentioned, Abraham Elstein, who was a great Yiddish theater composer, very famous for Yidel Bitten Fiedel, which is a Yiddish film from the 30s it was an American production that they filmed in Poland before the war. So it's an incredible document to that vanished world. You could see it. It's all available for free on YouTube, the whole movie. And by the way, some of these names, if you get curious, like look them up and see. You can see so much about Abraham Elstein, about Mordechai Gebirtig, about Noach Nachbush, Moshe Oisher, all these names that we may or may not have heard already. So this arrangement was written by Abraham Elstein, and it's not really a traditional arrangement because he was writing it in the 60s in America, and he was, I think, kind of trying to be hip. And he was influenced already by jazz, by pop music. Maybe we could demonstrate, maybe just like the ending of it or something. No, but then we're giving away the ending.
The end.
We don't wanna,
yeah.
Maybe we should just do the song.
No.
Yeah?
No, just I think first the end, and then we talk about then.
Okay. Spoiler alert. And of course, a lot of these Yiddish composers influenced, and klezmer music influenced Broadway, and influenced popular music and popular songwriting in America.
Yeah.
So in a way, this is kind of a return. This is like back and forth because this is a Yiddish composer now being influenced by Broadway arranging.
So thank you very much for these insights, and thank you very much for this very important work that you give us a chance to get into the music and the things you told us about it. Vielen Dank auch an das Quartett. Thank you, Socalled and Kaiser Quartett. Enjoy the second part. Viel Spaß bei der zweiten Runde. Ich nenne sie jetzt mal bei The Fantastic Five, die Fantastischen Fünf. Viel Vergnügen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you very much for inviting us here. And thank you everybody, the whole team of the Stiftung here. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to be in this beautiful space and for me to get to share this repertoire with you. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody at home too for tuning in. So let's get back to work with Kinderjungen.
Kinderjungen, süße Kinderjungen. Ewig bleibt wach in mein Sekunden. Wenn ich tracht von Eierzeit, wird mir so bang und leid. Oi, wie schnell bin ich schon alt geworden. Noch steht mir das Stiebel vor die Augen. Wo ich bin geboren, euch gezeugen. Euch mein Wiegel, seh ich dort, steht noch auf demselben Ort. Wie a Cholem ist das Hals verflogen. Noch seh ich dich, Fegele, du Scheine. Noch kusch ich die reute Bäcklech deine. Deine Augen, voll mit Rein, dringen in mein Herz herein. Hab gemeint, du wirst einmal sein meine. Kinderjungen, hab ich angeworden. Mein getreue Mammen, euch verloren. Von der Stub ist doch kein Fleck, Fegele ist euch weg. Oi, wie schnell bin ich schon alt geworden.
Now a children's song about a frog. a Frosh. By the way, a word about Yiddish. Frosh, you all know, right? You speak German, you know this word. And maybe 85% of what I'm singing you understand, but then there's often a word that slips in that is not from German. And this is because, of course, German developed at the same time as Yiddish, and Yiddish is 1,000 years old. And it was started when there was still Middle High German. And then, with that as its major seed, it started to be mixed with French, with Italian, with Russian, with Croatian, with Polish, and with Hebrew was another of its main roots. So like in that song that I just sang, you might understand most of a line, Wie cholem is das als verflogen. What is verflogen? You know that, it's a German word, right? Yes? No? Help me out here. Come on. Participation. Verflogen? Verflogen? What does it mean? Flown away. Okay. Wie cholem is das als verflogen. What's a cholem? We don't know, but everything else you know in that line. So, a cholem is a dream, and like a dream, it's all, this memory has all floated away. And that's what's so interesting about Yiddish, and for singing it for German people, it's very interesting because you get a lot of it, but then these key words. What is a stiebel? You don't know, maybe, and I don't know either. By the way, full disclosure, I'm not a native Yiddish speaker or a native Hebrew speaker, so I have to do a lot of work to understand the lyrics, and my Yiddish is getting better and better, and so is my German. I'll keep working on it, I swear. Entschuldigung. This next song is a song about a Frosh. Great. It's a children's song, but it's a Jewish children's song, so there's kind of a dark twist to it. We have a frog. He lives on a bank in the river. He jumps back and forth. So in the song, Once Upon a Time, there's a frog, and then all of a sudden a bird shows up. A heucher with a nose made of bone, okay? So once upon a time there was a frog, then there was a bird. You can see where this is going. Because eventually, once upon a time, there had been a frog. But we don't get into the dirty details. This is from the repertoire of Noah Nachbush, a great Yiddish theater singer from the Wilna Truppe. Die Frosh. Gewein is a Frosch in a green sammet kleed. Quack, 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 quack. Gewein is a Frosch in a green sammet kleed. Mit a Schilzel weißen von vorend gespreit. Ihr Haus is gewein von Leuter a hier. Quack, 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 quack. Ihr Haus ist gewein von Leute, ach hier, von Strahlen die Fenster, von Wasser die Tier. Von Teich auf den Breg, von Breg in einem Teich, quack, 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 quack. Von Breg in einem Teich, von Teich auf den Breg, mit der Sung und a Sprung, also laufen die Tag. Is gekibben a Buschel, a Heucher zu gehen. Quack, 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 quack. Is gekibben a Buschel, a Heucher zu gehen. Mit Fies wie die Stecken, von Schnabel, von Bein. Genommen die Frosch in dem grün Sammetkleid, für die Kinder lach seine a Sude gegreit. Gewein is a Frosch in a green sammetkleid, mit a Schürzel
alle Weisen von vorend Gespräch. Quack, 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 quack.
It's interesting, in Yiddish, frogs go kwa kwa. I think like in German. Yes? So frogs, okay. In Korean, frogs go kegul. In Francais, they go koi koi. And in Iceland, they go grabbit. That's neither here nor there. Nicht dahin, nicht daher. This next song is from the repertoire of one of the greatest Yiddish theater performers, Aaron Lebedev, from Belarus, from Gomel. He was an incredible performer who got his start singing. He went on tour in Japan and China before the war. He came to America and was an overnight sensation. He was 40 years old when he got to America, but he became the biggest star on the Yiddish stage. This is an arrangement of a Yiddish theater song. And it's an arrangement by the great young arranger and composer living in New York City now, whose name is Michael Winograd. This is a Yiddish Mädel darf a Jiddischen boy. A Jewish girl and a Jewish boy. That's the way it should be. It's 2021, I'm not so sure, but this is from 1921, so it's okay. All right? Let's play it, yeah. Come on.
Mädele, die Schäms, wart euch ein Augenblick, hätt nur was ich sagen euch. In Herz nur was ich sagen euch. A mistakele, a kleins, bringen weit euch kein Glück, nur zu sind weit ich a Sach. Jo, a mistakele, a kleins, bringen weit euch kein Glück, nur zu sind weit ich a Sach. A Mädele wie ihr kann gleich sein und schier, was trägt euch a Schägitz nemmen gut. Ihr wird kein und nicht euch werden, mit ihr zu harmonieren, weil Liebe geht ihr nicht, kein gleicher Pur. Nee, ihr wird kein und nicht euch werden, mit ihr zu harmonieren, weil Liebe geht ihr nicht, kein gleicher Pur. Die Liebe, der was hat, was zusammen euch. Für euch die Liebe mitten schägit's gleich, weil in die Teure steht geschrieben, mitten geht verblieben, azoi. Jiddisch Mädel darf a jiddischen Boy. Es ist schön in Heidel, und es darf sein azoi. In wo sagt ihr, euch Zores sichten, in allein, in a Blote kriegen, a jiddisch Mädel darf a jiddischen Boy. Oi, sis am Mechaie. Oi, es ist Taki geht. Rein die Welten nahe. In Vermeer Glück. A jiddisch Mädel darf a jiddischen Boy. Es ist schön und edel, und es darf sein so. Is wo sollt ihr euch Zores suchen,
Martin Benz on the cello. Igmar Superkrug on the viola. Jansen Fokkers, violin. Adam Zolinski, violin. It's a pleasure and an honor to play with you, my friends. Nice to see you. What are you showing me? The next song? How are we doing for time? We skip, what's that? Oh, we're gonna keep going. Well, let's just keep going for a while. Maybe the live stream is gonna cut off automatically, but we'll hang out here a bit longer. Thank you very much, thank you. Thank you for coming and risking your lives to be here today with your masks on. I can't tell if you're smiling. I hope you're smiling. Okay, yeah, he's smiling. Okay, you're you're smiling back there. Okay, good. And maybe it's good because I just assume you're smiling. Let's try a world premiere of a song because I just want to do it once. We've never done this live. It's another song from the repertoire of Mordechai Gebirtig, the poet, the people's poet of Krakow. And it's called, it's again another arrangement adapted from an arrangement by the great Abraham Elstein. This is Rezela. This is Rezela.
Steht sich dort in Gessele, still vertragt a Häsele. Drinnen auf dem Beudemstiebel weint mein Teil Häsele. Jeden Abend fahren Häsel, drehsigt sich a Ruh. Giga Pfeif und Vorfeus Räsel, komm, komm, komm. Öffnet sich ein Fenster, wachs aufs alte Häsele. In bald klingt in stillen Gässen, also Kohls reit Räsele. Noch a Weile wart mein Liebe, bald will ich sich frei. Geh sich noch a paar Mon über, 1, 2, 3. Ich dank für dein Tonnele, ich liebe so dich Reisele, ich lieb dein Mammen, ich lieb das Gessen, ich lieb das alte Häsele, ich lieb die Ständle, ich leben Häsel, trest auf See Aru. Herr, dein Mammen, rufst schon Räsel, komm, komm, komm. Geh ich mir a Freiliche, singt und knack mir nieselig. Herr, ich auf die Trepplich laufen, ihre drobne Füße. Wieder steht vertragt das Häsel, das Gessel wieder stumm. Komm zu mir in Cholem Räsel, komm, komm, komm.
did we skip that one somewhere? Where did that happen? So that was new, and it works. Yay! Woohoo! So, thank you. That's probably the first time we actually kind of really got through it, actually. And we made a record called Die Frosh, which is available on Membran Records. If you're interested in this repertoire, please check out that record. But that song, I guess, is going to be on the next one, on the next record, on Frosh 2. The return, the revenge of the Frosh. So, okay, we go back to Oy Avram. Why not? Okay, wow. This is a song, it's a folk song about, we didn't do this one yet? No, we skipped it somehow. How did we skip it? I don't know. Okay, anyway, it's a folk song. It should be sung by a woman. I don't identify as a woman. I am a he, him. But I'm going to sing it anyway. It's kind of an ode to heteronormativity. It's a love song. Avram, I can't live with you. You can't live with me. There's a great line in the song. You without me is like a door without a door knocker. Right? Ich kan dir doen mir svia kliamke on atir. Oy Avram, from the repertoire of the great Isa Kremer.
Oy, Avram, ich kenn und dir dit sein. Ich und dir, du und mir, kennen wir beide nicht sein. Gedenkst du bei dem Teuer, hast du mir gesagt, Asod in euer, oi, wei, Rivkele, gib mir deine Piskele, oi, wei, Rivkele, gib mir deine Piskele. Gedenkst du auf dem Boulevard, ich dem Kluger und du der Narr. Oi, wei, Rivken, jo, gib mir deine Pisken, jo. Oi, wei, Rivken, jo, gib mir deine Pisken, jo. Gedenkst du das heute Kleidl? Oi, bin ich gewein a schöne Mädel. Oi, wei, a Rivken, jo, gib mir deine Pisken, jo. Oi, wei, a Rivken, jo, gib mir deine Pisken, jo. Oi, Avram, ich kann an dir nicht sein. Ich kann dir, du an mir, können wir beide nicht sein. Gib mir dein Pisken, jo.
So once again, thank you so much for your hospitality here. And thank you to the team. Thank you to the sound man holding it down, making it sound beautiful here and at home. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Really, it's great to be here. It's great to be anywhere after that year and a half of being in my parents' house for, my goodness gracious. Okay, so we got one more for you. It's a holiday song. It's for Hanukkah. It's not Hanukkah now. Hanukkah is in December, okay? But happy Hanukkah anyway, okay? I'm just gonna hit you up early for Hanukkah, or late. It's from the repertoire of Moshe Oisher, a fine cantor, singer from the synagogue, who also was on the Yiddish stage and is in many Yiddish movies. An incredible cantor. People kind of don't take him seriously because he was so popular, and he was really like a matinee idol in his time. This is a song about a dreidel. What is a dreidel? A dreidel is a spinning top. Spin the dreidel. It's actually a tradition from Jewish Germany. So happy Hanukkah, everybody. Stay healthy. Thank you for coming so much. This is Moshe Oisher's dreidel. Go for it.
Freilach sein, drei lei, Hab schon Latkes, Fleisch und Fisch in der weiß gedecktem Tisch. Ja, ba. Hab die Bruches schön gemacht, die mir neures scheint apart. Drei lei. 1000 Sinnen, jede Flamme, stolz bin ich mit mir, mein Stamm. Ja, ba. Drei Dreidel von uns im Grutten, drei Dreidel zum Grutten. Kim die Woche für Hanukkah, ist alles bei mir gerutten. Am Biddeli von uns im Grutten, drei Dreidel zum Grutten. Kim die Woche für Hanukkah, ist alles bei mir gerutten. Weil ich bin, lei. Die mir Neues euch verscheint, alle sennen meine Freund. Ja, ba. Abikox im Rifferein soll sein nicht gerecht sein. Ja, so sein Tag ist sein allein, es ist ein größer Nest geschehen. Ja, ba. Drei Dreidel von uns im Grutten, drei Dreidel zum Grutten. Kim die Woche für Hanukkah, ist alles bei mir gerutten. Am Biddel von uns im Grutten, drei Dreidel zum Grutten. Kim die Woche für Hanukkah, ist alles bei mir gerutten. Habt sich auf dem Gerät als ein Stickelbrecher leer. Ja, dai, hoppo! Bringe vieles durch das Land, geht lang in unser Garten. Ja, Bring een fine zon aan meer, schrik de God de schoen zijn niet. Lei, 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 lei. Hoi, bring mir Bräuten, bring mir Wein, werden wir alle freilich sein. Ja, ba, 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 ba. Drei Dredel von uns im Geruten, drei Dredels im Gruten. A Kim die Woche für Chaneke, ist alles bei mir geruten. A Dredel von uns im Geruten, drei Dredels im Gruten. Kim die Woche für Chaneke, ist alles bei mir geruten. Dam Dankeschön. One more, a quickie. Also from the repertoire of Noach Nachbush. Klingen Glöcke, klingen Glocken, bim, bam, bom. Singt der Seide, singt der Socken, a bim, bam, bom. Sinken Strahlen, fallen, fallen, flim und flamm. Sog die Bobe, scheine Dobbe, Gott von Avram. A gut Woch, die Welt, der ganze, a gut Woch. Hatte noch Havdolle Wein, a bissl noch. Euer Mame morgen wieder sorgen in der Krumm. Singt der Seide, singt der Socken. Bachim, bom, 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 bom. Ja, baba, bim, ach, baba, bom, bom. Ma hoi hoi, ja da do bim mach bam 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 boy, la da do bim mach bam, ja ba ba bim ma bam, ja ba ba bim ma bam bam, la da da la da da, la da da da, hey da da da. Bam 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 yo ya bam bam yo yo ndele bam 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 ya bam 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 ya bam 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 ndele bam 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 Ja, ba 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 ma, bam bam bam. Ja, ba 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 ma, bam bam. Ja, ba ba ma, ja, ja. A gute Woche. A gute Woche. Thanks again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in. Be well. Sei gesinnt.
Hat euch das Video gefallen? Dann abonniert unseren Kanal, um kein Video zu verpassen. Schaut gern auch in unserer Mediathek vorbei auf körber-stiftung.de/Mediathek und folgt uns auf Facebook, Instagram und Twitter. Danke fürs Zuschauen und bis bald.